We're so happy and proud that Angel Velasco Shaw is here with us. She's a transnational artist, a media artist, educator, and curator and cultural organizer who lives between Manila and New York. She is currently a tenured associate professor and the director of the Institute for Heritage, Culture and the Arts in the School of Fine Arts and Design at the Philippine Women's University. She has also taught at Hunter College, Pratt Institute, the New School, and was core faculty in the Asian Pacific American Studies Program and Institute at New York University for 11 years. She is also responsible for the publication Vestiges of War, the Philippine-American War, and the Aftermath of an Imperial Dream, 1899 to 1999, and Silent Stories. Today, Angel will be talking about markets of resistance, and I really think that within the context of curatorial work in Southeast Asia, especially in Manila, it's very important for us, or I mean even historically, to know and look at projects of artists, organizers, or artist curators. And this is why Angel is part of this discussion. She'll talk about Markets of Resistance, which is a project and series of events inspired by the desire to highlight the cultural diversity and richness of Baguio's hybrid artistic communities, exploring issues of appropriation of Western practices, the impact of local global tourism, how Filipino traditional markets may or may not represent convenient and or exotic consumption for some, while remaining an oppositional tradition for others, and the effects of globalization on indigenous and non-indigenous peoples who co-inhabit a place. The project celebrated the meeting of highland, lowland, traditional and contemporary cultures, their artistic practices, intellectual thoughts, cinematic tales, and performative spoken word. So this project Angel, when did this project happen? Oh, okay, so we'll hear more about this very interesting project. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Angel Velasco Shaw.
Light down a little bit. It hurts my eyes. Hi. Okay. Actually, I'm going to read a little bit of what you just read. Okay. And then I'm going to screen a little video that I cut this morning. Okay. 30 years ago, I began a journey through a labyrinth, back and forth to the Philippines and New York, that I naively thought would end, and I would find my place to be in the world. I just graduated from an elite conceptual art school in Los Angeles and felt intuitively like I had to purge myself of all that I'd just learned in order to discover the kind of artist I wanted to be. Little did I know that this initial 5-month stay would have such a profound impact on me, and that would influence every aspect of my life as an artist, video maker, educator, cultural worker, and sometimes diverse, multi-layered, interconnected things that I do as a cultural practitioner. Every thought and action is part of a convergent, artistic, and intellectual continuum that is born of my life experiences. My ideas translate into whatever medium is best suited to implement them in. The body of work that I've been producing continues to evolve in a series of explorations into legacies of colonialism, empire building, war, cultural representation, identity politics, and the post-colonial condition within various critical frameworks. Thus far, the contents have been Filipino and American. Since 1998, I've been producing projects that combine my cultural and academic practices. My entire life thus far has been lived in the margins that have become my center. I thrive in independent and alternative spaces, yet I am not outside of the mainstream as a human being, cultural producer, and consumer. I would like to think that I have been making informed, conscious choices. Fast forward to today's Curating-in-Depth 2 conference. It would be too easy for me to say that I had a hard time putting my presentation together because I'm exhausted from producing 2 major intertwined projects in a year and a half, and I've never put a PowerPoint presentation together. Honestly, dear audience, it would be difficult. It is difficult. It was difficult, because I'm not just processing the recently completed Markets of Resistance Redux project, but I've come to accept that I continue to live all of the cross-cultural exchange projects that I have produced to date. They live in my body. Perhaps this is the primary reason why Markets of Resistance, produced in Manila and Baguio City, and Redux, produced for Philippine Women's University in Manila, remains like serpents in my system. I am daily shedding a bit more of their inseparable skins. My inspiration and motivation to embark on this elaborate project is personal, social and political, individually and collectively driven. My great-grandmother and grandmother walked from village to village with an oxen and cart filled with everyday goods to sell until they settled in Libertad Market in Pasay City. My love for markets where cultures thrive is in my blood. 27 years ago, a core group of artists in Baguio, filmmaker Kidlat Tahimik, painters and mixed media artists and performance artists Santiago Bose, Roberto Villanueva, Rene Aquitania, photographer Tommy Hafalya, visual artist Willie Mactibay, and Ben Cabrera, national artist, adopted me. They gave me the flame that some have said made me a culture bearer. Simply put, I felt compelled to put their gift into a container that someday I could pass on. Markets of Resistance in both incarnations reflect my desire to highlight the cultural diversity and richness of Baguio's hybrid artistic communities. Both projects explore issues of appropriation of Western practices, you just heard this, the impact of local and global tourism, how Filipino traditional markets may or may not represent convenient and/or exotic consumption for some while remaining an oppositional tradition for others, and the effects of globalization on indigenous and non-indigenous peoples who co-inhabit a place. Markets of Resistance, a special project undertaken in June to December 2014, was the inaugural multidisciplinary art and cultural project for the Institute for Heritage, Culture, and the Arts at Philippine University. It was a collaboration between the Institute and Access Art Collective, a Baguio-based collective indigenous and non-indigenous traditional and contemporary artists, scholars, poets, and community workers. The project components in Manila, on the Manila campus, consisted of formal and informal classroom sessions with 8 PWU students from the School of Fine Arts and Design and Communication Arts, 4 classroom interactions with visiting University of Washington students in which the School of Fine Art and Design students gave presentations for their art practices. Artist talks with filmmaker Kidlat Tahimik and multimedia artist Kawayan de Gia were also held. And 3 cultural immersion trips for a total of 13 days to Baguio City, Bontoc, and Sagada in the Cordillera region. And students' studio art time to produce artworks for a Baguio public market exhibition. The Baguio activities included art students' presentations, Baguio artist talks, and studio visits with Tommy Afaya, William Mactigbay, and Nona Garcia, a trip to the Bencap Museum, and an interaction with the national artist Bencap, 3 alternative tourist walking tours, drumming, wood carving, and rattan weaving workshops, scholarly talks, and film screenings, performance spoken word events with 3 different Baguio-based writers groups, and the making of a student documentary film. The overall project culminated in a series of events that included a 3-week exhibition in 3 market stalls in Baguio City, where people bartered for artworks, film screenings about current social issues in the Cordilleras, 3 site-specific art installations, and outdoor poetry reading and performance art in Hilltop Market. While it is difficult to provide exact numbers of people who came into the stalls and attended the events, The organizers' conservative estimate is around 2,500 people. 70-plus cultural practitioners participated in these events. The artworks were not for sale in the traditional form of a monetary exchange. Instead, an interested buyer had to negotiate with the artist about what he or she deemed to be the equivalent value in terms of goods. The artist's needs in daily life: sacks of rice, poultry, meat, coffee, vegetables, prepaid phone cards, houseware, children's necessities, clothing, etc. While the customer had to purchase themselves, which the customers had to purchase themselves, and then give it to the artist in exchange for her or his artwork. Markets of Resistance Redux. Since the inception of producing the Markets of Resistance project in Baguio, the opportunity to showcase what the School of Fine Art and Design and Communication Arts students learned through their experiences within the PW community and interested Manila folks in general was the utmost importance as a way of sharing multiple levels of experiences, providing these youths with an opportunity to embody what they have learned and eventually pass it on. Markets of Resistance Redux at PWU is thus a spin-off of the creative and intellectual processes of those who participated in Baguio. Many of the original participants were also featured in the various events that comprised of film screenings, artist talks, a cultural symposium focusing on the theme and topics of the project, spoken word and performance event, and a 2-weekend barter exhibition in the main hall of our university. As mentioned earlier, I'm still processing these projects. There's much to come to terms with. Their successes, failures, and a myriad of contradictions that are inherent within the organic process of our creative and intellectual interactions and the complex social and cultural issues that we sought to tackle. Questions remain about the tension we discovered between the growing Manila mainstream art market and the experimental alternative barter system that both Markets of Resistance projects attempted to employ. How, when, and where these art exchanges occur, the effects of them on the barterer, buyer, viewer, and community, and whether or not these two seemingly disparate systems can coexist in mutually respectful ways. A larger question lingers about how all of the participants who tried to express themselves through various interactions, whether as traditional indigenous artisans, contemporary artists, aspiring artists, scholars, poets and writers, and cultural community workers, can continue our objectives of creating greater visibility for our multicultural artistic practices, dismantle stereotypes of the indigenous people in the Cordillera region, and live all of the contradictions that we experienced, and not take one side over another. It is much harder to stay in the middle of these contradictions and continue to live them. So I'm just going to show you a 10-minute clip of something that I tried to put together so that you could try to imagine what these two projects were.
Who do you think are the people in the market? Who are the vendors? Mountain Province and now from Mindanao as well. So it's really a multicultural, multi-ethnic site. And the history, for example, of the shoe section is it was started by one family from Nueva Vizcaya. And then they started calling their relatives to come, and they were selling shoes in the section where you get rubber boots, baby shoes, fake Nikes, chinelas, and also second-hand shoes.
You have a lot of ideas from the West about natives. For example, natives in the Philippines, and they focus so much on their physical features, on how they naked or half naked they are, or how they get dressed or they get undressed. You have the native being painted as feminine, dark, in contrast to the image of the West as white, and beautiful, and advanced, and all that.
If you notice, ganyan, I want you, same thing. I want you.
I cannot get you an iPhone, ha? I can't afford that. I'll get everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, plus yung lagayan. Like what kind of longganisa? How many kilos do you need? Just a kilo. What kind of longganisa? Don't make me buy Chinese longganisa. I do not want to go back to SM Baguio.
Typically, when you see an art piece, there's a hard cash price below it, and it kind of like it becomes the only medium of communication between you and the artist. You're just talking money, right? And it's always a little bit difficult to negotiate with artists when all you talk about is money. But when there's an item and you're bartering for something, for a particular item, number one, I had a richer insight into the artist's needs, and I saw a completely different perspective of the artist. Also, one artist will barter his work for a car stereo, and another artist will barter for a kind of pint. So immediately there, I kind of like have an understanding of like stature and which artist is more established than another artist. So that's one indication. And then it kind of like makes me see the human side of the artist, right? Because when the artist is asking for a bottle of tequila, then you kind of like understand the kind of guy this guy is, right? If a bottle of tequila is that important, I kind of get you, I understand. And also, so here you go, no problem, no negotiation. Tequila you want, tequila you get.
Who taught us to say tinalak instead of tinalak, bilaan instead of blaan, tiboli instead of tuboli, panagbenga instead of panagbenga. What twist of the brain of the television brought us that we made our tongues lazy in twisting? Often our tongues are only hungry for the exotic food this so different culture is offering us. But when will our tongue learn the real twist, turns and struggles of these people displayed for the eyes of the tourist? Every 2 weeks, one language dies. Every 2 days, a word or two is forgotten. Who is the Filipino? The one who speaks Tagalog? Or the educated ignorants who speak well in English, which win the sympathy of the international community, thus producing the Indigenous Peoples' Right Act of this country? The first law in the whole world that protects the rights of the indigenous peoples. Who is the Filipino?
My apologies for that weird conference move thing that just kept ending up in bad sound. That's not really the way it was. Anyway, I forgot to mention actually that the market stalls were named after women that are from the Cordilleras, indigenous women that were put on display during the 1904's World Fair. So Oblique and Tugmina were two of the stalls, and then the word Niki Malika was the term that people from the Cordillera region gave to the indigenous peoples that were on display in the fair. And that the last part, so the redux, was, as I mentioned, a way to showcase the work that our students had done. And the Baguio artists had really participated in a very generous way. They really didn't have to do what they did and make new work also for the stalls that we fabricated in Manila. And I think you can see there's quite a huge difference between trying to produce a project like this in a public market space and then create some form of like an art installation in a university. You know, maybe people have questions about that. I can get into it during the Q&A session, but I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Actually scheduled to